Before we go too much farther in talking about the relational and equality operators, I want to point out three common mistakes that you might see. The first one is by far the most common, that is to say using a single equal sign instead of a double equal sign to compare things. The single equal sign, of course, is exactly like the way that you do it in every math class you've ever taken when you want to assert or at least check to see if two things are equal, if two expressions are equal. In Java, though, the single equals sign is an assignment operator. It takes the thing on the right, assigns that value to the thing on the left. The double equals sign is a comparison operator, where it checks to see if the thing on the left and the thing on the right are the same. That's probably the first big mistake that you'll see. The second mistake that you'll probably see is using the equal to or greater than instead of greater than or equal to. And this is because of the way that the less than or equal to works. The big thing to remember is sort of the way that you say this out loud, this greater than or equal to, where the greater than comes first, then the equal to comes after. The last mistake that you might see with relational operators and equality operators isn't really a relational or equality operator mistake so much as it is an organizational mistake on the part of you, the programmer, which is to say that if you're not using your parentheses carefully, particularly when it comes to more complicated expressions and structures, you might end up having a rough time, which is to say that we should use our parentheses carefully when we use them. Now with operator precedence, so we've added on these relational operators, which means that we need to reevaluate what operator precedence means. Now the parentheses, here's the new chart. And we're going to update this a few more times through the semester. Parentheses still happen first. They go into out and left to right. Then we multiply and divide. Then we add and subtract. And after we're done with that, we do our relational operators, the greater than, the less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. We do those from left to right. Then we do our equality operators, the equal to and not equal to, from left to right. And finally, after all that is done, after everything else that can resolve has resolved, we do our assignment operators, which happen from right to left. So let's take a look at, at perhaps a more complicated version of this. We're only going to get slightly more complicated. And so what we're going to do is Java C. We're going to create a file called evencheck.java. We're just going to check to see if a number is even. We're going to check to see if it has a remainder of 0 when divided by 2. We'll import java.util.scanner, public class evencheck. Note that we don't have that .java at the end, we just have the class name. Public static void main string args. Then from here, we'll create a scanner. In this case, I'm going to call the scanner n. Scanner n is equal to new scanner system.n. Of note, the n here, that system.n here, happens every time. Doesn't matter what you call your scanner here. The fact that we have an n over here and an n over there is only a coincidence. It's not anything more than that. Okay, I'll make a quick title bar. And then here in just a second, Vim will catch up. There we go. System.out.print will ask the user for a number. Give me a number. I guess that's not so much asking as it is telling. Int usernum. We're going to create this at the same time that we get it. Is equal to in.nextInt. In is our scanner. .nextInt is how we tell the scanner to give us a number. And then from here, the way that we're going to roll with it is we're going to check to see if that number is a multiple of 2. And the way that we're going to check that is by doing all of the math in one line. So Boolean is even is going to be equal to our usernum mod2 is equal to 0. Okay, so with operator precedence, we evaluate this part first, then we check to see if it's equal to 0. And that's, remember how your operator precedence works. We do all of our math, and then we check to see where everything falls in. Okay? And then from here, system.out.print, I'll make this printf even. Make a new line, is %d even. Then from here, we've got our usernum. That's going to go into the %d. Then system.out.println is even. And we'll close our program out. You don't need this last line. I just like having it. Okay. So we're going to figure out if our number is even. That'll give us a true or false. And from here, we'll check to see if the number is even, and then we'll print the result. Let's save. Then we'll check. Everything works when we compile it. It's going to ask us for a number. Let's first give it an even number. Let's give it something like an 8. We know 8's even. It's a multiple of 2. Is 8 even? True. So that works the way that it should. Then let's give it, say, a 93, which we know is not even. And is 93 even? False. And just for kicks, we can even try a number like 0, which is even by definition, but not everyone knows that. But 0 can be expressed as a multiple of 2. It's 2 times 0, which means that it is in fact even. So is 0 even? That's true. We can also, if we're feeling so inclined, check a negative number, something like negative 12, which is also divisible by 2. So is negative 12 even? And that one is true. So all told, what we've got, what we figured out, is that using operator precedence, using the way that all works, we've got in this line in particular, the ability to do some math and then compare the results of that math with another number, or possibly with other math. And we can get a lot more complex if we want. We don't just have to do one operation. We could have 10 operations, 10 arithmetic operations if we felt like. Right now we're just going to do one. I think that'll be sufficient for the moment. Which is to say, though, that when you're using your arithmetic operators, you end up doing, being able to do, when you do your arithmetic operators and when you do your relational and equality operators, you end up being able to do some fairly complicated comparisons after a while. And we get even more complicated when we start using things like the logical operators, which let us combine comparisons. Okay, so now that we have our Boolean values, and this is the exciting part. This is where we're getting into the first of our big control structures. We can use our Boolean values to make decisions, which is to say that we can write if statements, and then depending on the results of those evaluations, we have things that might or might not happen. Now with this program, every single line of code is definitely going to happen every time that we run the program. That is to say that every time we're going to ask the user for a number, we're going to get that number, we're going to check to see if that number is even, and then regardless of what happens, we're going to run this output. That is to say that we don't have yet a method of saying the number is even without the printing out true or false straight to the screen, nor do we have a way of creating more sophisticated behaviors just yet. If statements are a game changer, and when we come back in the next video, we're going to talk more about them. I'll see you in just a second.